Welcome, everyone, to Connection Over a Cup. I'd like to introduce my guest today, Edric Ivan, a San Francisco based artist. And I'm very excited to have him on the show and for him to share a lot about his artwork and how he builds community in the area of San Francisco. So, welcome, Ivan. Even though I know I introduced you as Edric Ivan, you go by Ivan in your world. Is that right?
That is correct. Yep. Yep.
So tell us a little bit about yourself. And then, of course, I'm going to ask you a lot more information, but I always like to give guests the opportunity to just share kind of what's up for them and, to give listeners an opportunity to know a little bit about you.
Yeah. Sounds good. Yeah. So again, my name is Edric Ivan. I am a San Francisco based artist. I have a small little art studio in San Francisco. I grew up in the Bay Area. Actually more in the central. I grew up playing soccer. So I grew up a lot in just Northern California, to be honest, traveling a lot. I played mostly in Sacramento, but did a lot of stuff in San Francisco
Mhm.
too. So just traveling a lot, and I always felt the most comfortable here in the Bay Area. So now that my soccer is done, I'm kind of pursuing my art career. And the Bay Area was a perfect spot to, yeah, to pursue that. Again, I really love the community here in San Francisco. The whole Bay Area, just the people are different. That's what I like the most, I guess, here.
Yes,
We're
yes.
different here in the Bay, and I like it.
In the best way, though, right?
Yeah,
We're
oh,
different in the
definitely.
best way.
Definitely, yeah. So, yeah, I just kinda grew up around here, just everywhere. Right now, I represent, in a way, the whole Bay Area. So I live in Vallejo, I work in Marin, and I have my art studio in San Francisco. So, yeah, I'm
You like
literally
to travel.
yeah, I kinda do, but trying to kinda settle down more, basically a little closer to San Francisco, and yeah, with my art and stuff. Yeah, again,
Makes sense.
now, again, I graduated in animation, media arts and animation in Sacramento, and now I'm kind of just doing a little bit of everything. I do oils, acrylics, watercolor, digital stuff. Still working on my own animations, and kind of me being in the Bay Area, I wouldn't mind getting into like a studio, like an animation studio or
Mhm,
something like that,
mhm.
to kind of go with my degree. So, yeah, that's kind of my goals and my dreams in a way right now.
Yeah. Well, I think it's really interesting. So, just listening to you, you mentioned that you grew up playing soccer. It sounds like you actually did that in a professional capacity and then switched to art, which, I think for most of us, that's not necessarily a natural progression. So, how did you get interested in the art world? Like, was it when you were younger? Was it a person, an experience? Did you maybe come across an artist that really inspired you? Give us some insight into how that transition
Yeah,
occurred.
that's a big one. That's a hard one. Again, like kind of like as we were talking before, I my first name is Edric, but I prefer Yvonne now because they're I feel like almost two completely different people. So with soccer, it
Sure.
was basically my whole life. I was really good. Like you said, I ended up playing professionally indoor, semi-pro outdoor, college, everything. It was my whole life for over 30 years. And now that that's
Wow.
over, yeah, now I have time for my art. But it was one of those things when I was little, I was really big into comic books and animation. So I'm a huge nerd.
Mm.
uh, and yeah, I would basically go home after like my practices and my games and like just try to copy all the comic books, like just the characters and all the artists in there. Just going back to the classics like Jack Kirby, and yeah, just all the drawings they did. I'm a big like Marvel fan, I guess, or I should say
Mhm.
was a little bit more.
Sure,
I
sure.
kind of don't really like what Marvel and Disney is doing too much now. But yeah, again, I grew up on Marvel Spider-Man. He was just like my hero. Yeah, and then just all the drawings of like Wolverine. But yeah, that's basically how I got into art. It was kind of funny because nobody really knew I drew. Because I was just
Uh-huh.
did it when I went home, and people always knew me as a soccer player. And
Sure.
yeah, so once kind of soccer was almost done, I guess, or I was kind of almost like this, not midlife crisis, but, I was kinda just not being too productive, I guess, and just kinda partying more,
Mhm,
enjoying life.
mhm,
And it was
mhm.
kinda one of those things where I had to, like, reassess my life and, go back to, in a way, like, my childhood, what did I always like doing, and that became art, and that's when I was like, "Alright, well, let's see what I could really do with it if I actually try." Um, yeah, just like I did with soccer. I was always good, but I never really thought of, I guess, pursuing it professionally, until I actually tried. I was like, "Well, I've always liked soccer. Let's see what
Right,
happens when I
right.
actually try." Um, and then, yeah, I ended up playing a little professional. So same thing with art. It was kinda just one of those things in my life where, like, I'm pretty good at this, and I really like to do this, so let's see what happens when I actually take it serious. Yeah, and then I got my degree and all that stuff, and yeah, now I'm enjoying my life.
Well, you seem very passionate. Both are very passionate careers. So,
Mhm.
what was interesting when you were sharing about your experience is that I think mainstream USA would assume soccer players are very disciplined. There's a
Mhm.
lot of practice. There's just a lot involved behind the scenes. Like you're doing the shots over and over and
Yeah.
over again, practicing all the time. And then people see you, you know, out on the pitch and they see you performing or out on the
Mhm.
field and they think, oh, he's just you could be naturally gifted, but they
Yes.
think like, "Oh, that just happens naturally for that person," but
Mhm.
actually there's quite a bit of practice involved. And then
Yeah.
I think on the flip side, people don't necessarily think of the art world the same way. They think of an artist as relaxed and laissez-faire,
Mhm.
and when the spirit takes them, they create art, but that's not necessarily the case, and I think because you were a soccer player, it makes sense to me anyhow that you would be disciplined in the art world as
Mhm.
well, and it sounds like, you took that childhood passion, you were speaking to comic books, and I don't know that necessarily people would make that connection because people mainstream again, people would think like comic books are they're not looking at it for the artistic
Yeah.
value per se, you know what I
Mhm.
mean? And so when most people think of art, they're thinking to your point earlier, acrylics, oils. So how did that kind of morph? I know you talked about going to school and then taking it up in a more professional capacity. How has your understanding of art really shifted from when you first entered to how you're dabbling in it today?
It was kinda what you said too, like, that whole discipline thing, getting in a way that high with soccer, I knew what it took to get
Mhm,
to a high
mhm,
level with the art, and it kinda sucks, and it's kinda gets lonely, but it's a lot of sacrifices, and again, I already knew what it was with soccer, and with the art world, it was different because it's just all you. It really is all you, and, like, in a way, nobody could help you, and in soccer, you have a whole team atmosphere and everything, so a lot of it was just starting to do something, and then as
mhm.
I'm, like, doing it, I evolve it. I was like, "That I didn't like how that happened," this changes, and I've always kind of went back to, like, the comic book style, I guess,
Okay.
a little bit, and because that's just what I loved, but now with my art, I'm really trying to express how I feel, and that's really hard
Mhm.
for me because I'm a
Sure.
good technical artist. I could draw technically well, anatomy perspective, rendering,
Right,
all of that
right.
stuff I could do, but it's been really challenging lately, or I've been trying to work on lately, putting down on the canvas of how I feel. And that's really hard for me because I don't know how to express, I guess. How do I put down that I'm mad today? How do I put down that I'm happy today? How do I put that down? Um, so that's again really where my artwork is evolving, I guess, trying to not do so much technical stuff, or a little bit of
Mhm.
both. Some technical work with still putting how I feel, on the canvas or the drawing. So that's kinda where my artwork is evolving, almost getting less technical and more of how I feel, and that's really hard for me. It's I get
Well, I think vulnerability is really hard for the majority of us. For me, thinking of what you're sharing, like what a dichotomy, right? Like the
Mhm.
soccer player, if we're thinking about it in a traditional sense, not really sharing feelings per se.
Right.
Like it's kind of got that that macho element. We don't
Mhm.
necessarily see a lot of emotion unless there's like that victory. And then if we do see tears, they're more tears of joy
Mhm.
versus, to your point, in the art world, you really are stripping yourself bare to put yourself out there for others to see. And that kind of vulnerability is incredibly raw. And I don't know
Yeah.
that many of us, myself included, are very good at becoming that vulnerable because it's scary, right? Like there's
Mhm.
the criticism that could, come about, or just you seeing yourself exposed in that way. Like it
Yeah.
takes a lot of courage. And I think vulnerability is just tough in general. So I can
Mhm.
completely understand how you're struggling with that transition, if you will. But it's so interesting. Like you came from this ultra macho
Mhm.
environment to now being, like, laid bare. It's really quite fascinating. And
Yeah.
so, like, how I know you'd mentioned you being kind of this lone island. So how do you find community in the art world? I mean, obviously, the process is you, but there's gotta be some sort of community of artists that are
Mhm.
there to kinda help. What's that community like?
Yeah, so that was a big thing as I was pursuing this. There was this point, I guess, where I was doing it and I was kind of selling my work, but I was still at home and kind of again,
Mhm,
like, just my home studio. And
mhm,
then that's where I transitioned to getting into my studio in San Francisco. I'm not there all the time, but I try to go there once or twice a week at least once a week. But that was a big part of it, of just going there and being around other artists. Our whole
yes.
building is basically just artists. So, there's a bunch of other artists there that I get to kind of like feed off of. We get to talk to each other. I get to ask opinions of, we'll say my artwork, or they ask me their opinions.
Mhm,
So we get to feed off
mhm,
each other like that.
mhm,
So this other thing that I guess I'm a part of is the Art Span community. It's just another, I guess, artist community, and they help with like marketing and getting your stuff out in like
mhm.
San Francisco. So I'm a part of that community as well. And they're always having like events. But yeah, that's a way of kind of, for me at least right now, of getting out to the community. That's kind of another thing I've been really trying to find in a way too, since
Right.
I am in or new to the Bay Area,
Mhm.
really trying to find my community. Um, because I am kind of weird. I am kind of those opposite sides. Um,
Not weird.
yeah.
You're really
Oh, no,
dynamic.
I don't have a problem with it. I know I am, and I'm proud of it, and I'm happy. I love who I am. Yeah, it's just because it's kinda like you said, I have my soccer friends that I could play and hang out and do all the physical stuff but I can't really talk to them too much.
So you have more of your athletically focused friends, but that community is not necessarily going to provide you the artistic input that you're looking for. And then your artistic friends, are there to help you in the creative sense. It seems like you're really having essentially these two separate lives. You have Edric,
Kind of.
and then you have Yvonne. And, you had mentioned kind of breaking into the art world or the community. And I was curious because I'm in the world of coffee, which is oversaturated. And I feel like the art world is a little oversaturated in a way too. So, how
Mhm.
do you go about building community, or how did you kind of decide, okay, I'm going to break into the art world and here's how I did it?
I guess that's kinda what I'm trying to do right now as well. For me, just I guess general life too with both. It's really learning to just be myself to the fullest in a way. And again, going back to like the art and that vulnerability and all that stuff, it's really hard, but I don't know, I'm getting used to it, just being like, this is who I am and this is who I am. you
So
know?
how would you, like, share with listeners, let's say our younger listeners? There's so much noise, I feel like, in today's world where it's really hard to be yourself because
Yeah.
there's all this information out there essentially telling you to conform or you won't be accepted if, fill in the
Mhm.
blank, right? Like, how, especially because of that challenge for men, especially, but I think all of us, right? Like, how do you become your authentic self? How do you get that courage to say, okay, I'm not going to listen to what everybody else is saying or what anybody else
Yeah.
thinks. It's really important what I think about myself. How did you get there to where you're at now, to where you're able to say, I'm just going to show up as myself?
Yeah, that's a hard one. That really is, cause kind of like with the art, I feel like you have to like it's the journey. You have to do your own journey. So everybody's gonna look a little bit different. But for me, it was kind of looking at like my influences around, or honestly, like the people around me too. And in a way, being smart enough to be or to say, I like what they're doing or I don't like what they're doing. And choosing from there. I have the choice or I have the ability to make a choice of what I want to put my energy into. So that's kind of where came from in a way of really seeing all these people, especially honestly family, like doing all these things and like having complaints about the same things that they're doing over and over and kind of causing their own problems in a way. And it was just like, just make a different choice. But that's a lot easier said at the same time too.
Yeah, I was gonna say you make
Um,
it sound really simple, but it's really
yeah,
hard.
uh,
Observation, of course, is key, and you've identified that, but then you have to actually make the change,
yeah,
which I think is the hardest part of it all, right?
it
Like, you
really
notice
is.
your behaviors and you're like, "Oh, I keep doing that," or, whatever that is.
But again, even just identifying it in the first place, that's a big step.
You were mentioning that the journey about personal discovery being one that you have to take on your own. So spending more time with yourself to better understand yourself and then lead
Mhm.
to making decisions that are going to benefit you and your future self. Is that right?
Basically, yeah, and I know a lot of people don't wanna be by themselves. I don't wanna be by myself. It's like kind of that thing where you don't have other influences trying to decide things for you, and so it's just all you, and that's where you can figure out what you really like. Just really going within and figuring out what I really liked. Even going back to like kind of what I said earlier, going back to as a kid, like thinking as a kid, what did I like as a kid, before I grew up and have all these influences of being an adult, you know? What just made me happy, What just made me happy like
Yes.
doing. So yeah, it was really just really looking within, which is again, it's harder to do than to say. Yeah, I really had that time for myself to figure out who I am, what I want, what makes me happy, what kind of people I want in my
Mhm.
life, what kind of people I don't want in my life. So yeah, and now it's pretty easy. I could just be like, "You, yes. You, no. No, 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 no." And yeah, and then I move on.
Well, you're fairly approachable too, so I think that that helps. I mean, I know for me, it was really overcoming my introverted self. I really needed to
Mhm.
be like, "Okay, you can do this. You can say hi to a
Yeah.
stranger. You won't die," but it definitely was a process to where now it's much easier for me, but
Mhm.
initially, it was definitely that challenge of doing something really uncomfortable, doing it enough that then it became comfortable, and
Mhm.
ultimately, it's something that's kind of improved my life experience. So, back to community though. So you are trying to create more of a community in San Francisco. How do
Mhm.
you go about doing that? Are you, you know, putting yourself in places where you'll meet fellow artists? Are you working with others who will connect you? Like, what does that process look like?
Yeah, so kinda just, again, going back to being myself, the things that make me happy. I am pretty introverted too, being an artist, and kind of on my journey, with life, I know what it's like to kinda, like, be not seen in a way and just feel not accepted. So that's why a lot of times, like, when you do see me, I try to say hi to everybody. I try to greet it doesn't matter, like, hopefully me just smiling at them that day, like, you don't know what people are going through. That smile coulda probably, like, made their day.
I think sometimes when I get caught up in not necessarily resentment, but let's say somebody did something that I didn't really enjoy, I
Mhm.
remember, hey, I don't know what their experience is, right?
Yeah.
And am I always like the best person in every moment? Absolutely
Mhm.
not. Sometimes I'm complete trash, right? And I'm
Yeah,
hoping in those moments that people are kind and, to your point, understanding she must be having a day or going
yeah,
through something. So the fact that you say that is really impactful. You're right. We never know what someone else is going through. And that smile can make someone's day. And it's free, it costs nothing, right?
yeah. It took me almost no effort, you know?
Right.
And yeah, and then on the other flip side of that, I guess too, it's that, like, knowing, I guess, just how people feel or can feel, and even going back to, like, the way I feel and how I express myself towards people and what's going on with me, because I know I've been in this, a part of my life where things haven't been good, and I'm kinda just on edge, and you're kinda just, in a way, mad at everybody. But a lot of people you meet or in your daily life, have nothing to do with it,
Right.
and it's not fair to them for me to, like, act like a jerk towards them when they have nothing to do with it.
Right. Yeah, like when you're when one is struggling, like when I'm struggling, I'm like, pour that energy into your coffee, right? And so you could probably pour that energy into your artwork. And
Mhm.
similarly, other people, like we all have those moments. We're not going to be perfect, nor should we try.
Yeah.
But how do we get along with one another without projecting or impacting another
Mhm.
person when it's really not their, I don't wanna say fault, but it's not their issue, right? It's my
Yeah.
experience, I need to own it. How am I gonna
Mhm.
process that experience, and how can I do that in a way that is beneficial, maybe to me? And I would think that art is a really great way to get those feelings out and
Mhm.
to be expressive, because sometimes people lack the ability to put into words what they're feeling, so I would imagine that art allows that. And so
Mhm.
is it a response to anything, or is your art, what kind of walk us through kind of what your art is about?
Um, a lot of my art is really just expressing me and what I like. I really noticed I guess my stuff is more realistic,
Mhm.
more realistic style, so I like actually drawing things, I don't really do abstract. I'm trying to get into abstract, like I was talking about earlier, like expressing a little more how I feel, and I
Right.
feel like I could do that a little more with colors,
Mhm.
than, um, I guess drawing, again, technical stuff. So lately I've been trying to, like, mix a little bit of both, almost like abstract backgrounds with, detailed foreground. So a little bit of both, which I've been kind of liking lately. But a lot of it's just kind of experimenting on things that I like, objects that I like. I use my culture a lot, actually. So I'm Mexican. Mom and dad are both from Mexico. Yeah. So I use my culture a lot. The colors a lot. I love the like turquoise colors. Yeah. So I really like to basically have my culture somewhere in there with colors or the actual objects I'm drawing. But yeah, I kind of more realistic. I honestly don't really like to just do one thing. I don't really like to be boxed into one style, one medium. I feel like I could do it all, so I'm gonna do it all. I don't want to be held back by just one thing.
If you had one thing to share with everyone about art from your perspective, what would you want everyone to know about art?
With art, everybody can make it. Anybody can make it, basically. Everybody's good. I know some people that like see my work and they're like, "Oh my god, I can't do that. How do you do that?" And I'm like, "Well, you can do that. It's just takes time, just like anything else. You got to learn how to do it." And then it's the simple thing of like passion too. It's like, well, are you willing to like sit there for like 5 to 10 hours on one drawing or painting? And their immediate answer is no. Well, then there you go. You can't do it then. like, um,
Right?
yeah.
That goes back to that piece about it being like a soccer player. You
Hmm.
definitely have to have that discipline, which doesn't
Yeah.
necessarily come to mind when we're talking about art. But you're
Yeah.
right, it does
Yeah.
take time and patience, and it could go over many days, even
Mhm.
months, right?
Yeah,
So for
and
you, like, what is your next big move? Like, what are you looking or how are you looking to evolve, I guess I should say, like your art in the next year?
Yeah, so a lot of things. I try to keep busy. I love doing a little bit of everything. So I'm trying to keep getting my stuff into galleries or like shows in the city or basically all along around the Bay Area. Even farther than that, I would like to kind of get out to, even like New York. A big thing is with my animation too. That's what my degree's in. So I really want to pursue that.
Mhm.
And get into a studio, eventually having my own studio.
Yeah.
I've kind of seen, like, to be honest, a lot of the industry, of people in the industry, and there isn't a lot of people like me that look like
That's
me.
enough.
I really want to create my own, in a way, studio with the people I envision me growing with and with my culture. I really want to do stuff for my culture and my people.
Mm,
Um, I've always kinda said, "I wanna win an Oscar for an animation."
that would be amazing.
Yeah, that's a big goal, and I wanna tell my own stories. A lot of the stuff that I do with, like, 2 so my degree is in actually 2D animation, so not really, like, 3D stuff, and a lot of that is down south, like, in the LA area. A lot of those studios are down there, but, again, I don't really wanna go down there.
So
Yeah.
if someone were to want to look you up, right? They're listening to you, they're like, "This guy sounds amazing, what you do," and they're really curious about the work that you do. They wanna follow you, see how you progress. They would look you up how?
Yeah, so, basically, all my stuff is at Edric Ivan Studios. So like my website, I'm on Instagram. But yeah, everything's basically at Edric Ivan Studios.
You wanna leave something for everyone today, what would it be? You want all of the listeners to walk away with one piece of, information, inspiration, whatever it is from you. What are you gifting to all of us today?
I guess my little message was just find out what you're passionate about. That's a big thing for me. Passion is a big thing, and that could be anything. We're all good at something. We're
Yeah.
all really good at something, actually. We just got to find what that is. So find what you're passionate about and just go for it. You're the only one stopping you. That's literally it. It's not gonna be easy. That's another thing. It's not gonna be
True.
easy, but it's all worth it. You're gonna have the life you've always wanted. Follow your passion. Find out what it is first. Once you find that out, it's easy. Then you can take the proper steps. So,
Thank you so
yeah.
much for joining me today. It was really so exciting to hear about your work, but more than anything, just your journey. You started in soccer and you ended up in art. I mean, who would have thought, right?
Yeah,
That's
right?
pretty
Yeah.
multidimensional. You're a very multidimensional human, and we're all very excited to see what you come up with. I would love to support the art world, so I'm really hoping that you and I can collaborate in some way in the future, but ultimately, I wish you all the best, and I'm really grateful that you chose to be my guest today. So thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Thank you again for having me. I really enjoyed it. So yeah, it was fun
Yeah, me
talking about
too.
my journey. A little hard, but yeah,
Awesome. Everyone out there, thank you for joining Connection Over a Cup. And remember, brew well and connect often. Until next time, thanks so much.
thank you. Bye.